This is just a rehash of the Lost World Jurassic Park. Let's call it for what it is. From set pieces of an elderly man looking for redemption from his humbled physical state to taking the animals off the island and looking to make capital from them. The only difference here is that they're looking to sell them on the black market to anything from weaponizing them for war, using them for pharmaceutical purposes, or the right to hunt them. Yes, it's going to be this ridiculous. There is a nice cue from the original book where the island was destroyed by napalm bombing it so that the animals could never escape to the mainland. Whereas with this, Mount Sibo, a once extinct volcano, had become active on Isla Nublar, which threatens the lives of the dinosaurs on the island, including Rexy and Blue. Now at first you seemingly like Eli Mills, as he comes across as a charming and charismatic businessman with altruistic intent, like his boss, Benjamin Lockwood, who was John Hammond's silent partner in creating the original Jurassic Park. But his heel turn came way too quickly. Had the turn come when the animals arrived at the estate, then that would have built up to where the audience would have felt cheated that someone with sincere intent was just a wolf in sheep's clothing. In order for a heel turn to work, you have to be invested in a character, in a similar vein to Ducard from 2005's Batman Begins, where he feels like a good father figure to Bruce Wayne, but when he turns, he really turns. In this, there wasn't enough time to become invested enough in the character. Some of the best scenes are on Isla Nublar, where we become reacquainted with the dinosaurs of Jurassic World and Jurassic Park. Speaking of, the way the opening scene was done with Rexy chasing a group of mercs whilst retrieving a sample of the I-Rex gave me vibes of the original Jurassic Park if the horror elements had been dialed up. Credit for this goes to J.A. Biona, his work on The Orphanage as a horror director. He knows how to use the right elements for heightened intensity, as seen with the chase of the Rex and the game of cat and mouse in the mansion between our heroes and the Indoraptor, also known as Ripper, as nicknamed by Altiori. As good as the action is in this movie has a lot of problems. Owen somehow surviving volcanic ash after being surrounded by it on the race to the cliff edge, as this should have killed him instantly. Owen before, against all odds, surviving the scalding hot temperature of approaching lava that should have melted him alive just being mere inches from it. The Baryonyx not being killed despite lava splatting onto it. Dinosaurs being sold on the black market, as I mentioned before. The Indoraptor being a mixture of Indominus Rex and Velociraptor, when the I-Rex was already a mixture of T-Rex, Cuttlefish, Amazonian tree frog, and Velociraptor. So it was just more raptor? Blue not smelling out the mercs while she was attempting to bond with Owen again after 3 years. Blue being given a blood transfusion from Rexy, which is just ludicrously asinine when anyone who's not even a hematologist will tell you that will do more harm than good and probably even killing Blue. This kind of backwards sci-fi writing is tantamount to a human being given a blood transfusion from a lion, a cat, or a dog. Even if that person were given a transfusion from an ape, even though they are our closest genetic link, would have so many compatibility issues. Also, the way that Claire and Owen are getting Rexy to donate blood is just laughable. And Rexy's tranquilizer wears off and she wakes up angrily, like someone had told her that Disney had cancelled the Owl House.
They did what? It had 3 seasons left in it! Bring me the mouse! Public domain's coming for you!
This movie had a lot of references from the previous movies. This one is a trivial nitpick, as I've seen from a lot of reviews. Websites note that we see a nod to the original tour vehicle seemingly left where it fell in the original movie. That part is not the issue, it's the fact that a lot of people refer to it as the Jurassic Park Jeep. I'm sorry, what? Oh boy. It's one of those days, ain't it? The Jurassic Park Jeep was a 1992 dull white and red striped vehicle, whilst the tour vehicles were a two-tone green and yellow 1992 Ford Explorer. Also, the tear-jerking moment when the original Brachiosaurus that greeted us to Jurassic Park dies in the ash of the volcano as it pleaded to be saved as the boat steamed away, in the scene that's simply referred to as the death of Jurassic Park. Oh, folks, I'm not gonna lie. That cut deep. Some have asked why the movie was given the subheading Fallen Kingdom. This is my take on it. I think the answer lies in the name itself. The park represented the kingdom. It got trashed courtesy of corporate greed and the I-Rex in the previous outing, and the volcano has laid further waste to the island. Ergo, Fallen Kingdom. And then we come to the subject of Maisie Lockwood. Oh, I can see why this was controversial. Human cloning has long been a taboo subject in science, politics, and religion, as it's seen as going against nature. Yeah, we're in a movie where dinosaurs have been genetically recreated. That ethics train left the station decades ago. Benjamin lost his daughter in a car crash years ago, and he used the technology to get her back, but this in turn drove a wedge between him and Hammond. I see both sides of the argument. On the one hand, yes, it's going against the natural order of things, but at the same time, be honest with yourself just for a minute. If you had the tech to bring a loved one back, wouldn't you be tempted? Only you can answer that. The idea of acquiring Blue to use her DNA as the next genetic iteration of the Indoraptor did make sense, as Owen had proved with the Raptor Squad that they can be trained to follow human commands, and Blue's genetics would allow Ripper's successor to be more compliant. Speaking of Ripper, this dinosaur is a sociopathic a**hole. From stalking Maisie to smiling while playing possum in front of Wheatley. Are you serious? When did we go from Jurassic Park to Looney Tunes? All that's missing is a snarky quip.
Enough, you stinker.
There it is. For all the absurd angles I give this movie, I will give credit where credit is due. The brief fight between Blue and Ripper was decent, with the Looney Tune raptor being impaled upon the Triceratops skeleton horns. And then of course we come to another moral dilemma for our heroes. Save the dinosaurs from the poison gas, or spare humanity a situation it's not ready for. Claire grudgingly chooses not to, but then Maisie opens the floodgates for all the world's problems later to come. I get her point of view. She knows how precious life is, and she is connected with them through her grandfather's legacy, and she spared them as she saw herself in them. And then we come to Mills getting his just desserts, with Rexy probably getting dessert after feeding on the goat earlier. For crying out loud, Goatee always gets it. And in true classic Jurassic Park style, Rexy signs off giving her final thoughts.
Owl House for life!
That bit I agree with at least. Along with Rexy smashing the I-Rex sample as a means of the producers saying, yeah, we get it, no more hybrids. We end the movie as we began it, with Ian Malcolm appearing for the first time since The Lost World, outlining the fundamental moral implications of what would happen if the dinosaurs got onto the mainland, with him being proven right.
These creatures were here before us. And if we're not careful, they're going to be here after.
After a long look back, this movie has a ton of problems that just goes against what the original Jurassic Park stood for. There are some saving graces. Some. Chris built upon his initial performance from the first Jurassic World in the lengths he was willing to go to get Blue rescued off the island, and he seemed right at home on Isla Nublar, looking for her. I like how her character became more altruistic and conscience-driven in wanting to save as many dinosaurs as possible before Mount Sibo would erupt, and you feel Claire's anger and disgust in being betrayed by Mills. If you had heard this actor's voice without seeing his face, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was Ryan Reynolds, as there are large similarities in their pitch and cadence. The British actor does a decent job in appearing as altruistic before he does a very premature heel turn in looking to sell the dinosaurs in a black market auction for military and pharmaceutical applications. From Knight Rider to Babe and playing the first live-action Captain George Stacy in Spider-Man 3. The veteran actor plays a good, sympathetic role in a man looking for redemption in a similar vein to Richard Attenborough's John Hammond in 97's The Lost World. Cromwell really shows the remorse of a man that drove a wedge between him and Hammond for using the technology to resurrect his daughter that got killed in a car crash. I see, his last name is Webb because he's a nerd. Really, movie? Smith's role is small as the former IT technician to Jurassic World, and he plays his part well until they have him playing up exaggerated stereotypes of squeamish nerds. Pineda has snarky charm, wit, kinda like a certain rogue I know. She plays a former Marine that's a paleo-veterinarian. She has great interactions with Bryce, Chris, but the whole bratty antagonistic angle between Zia and Franklin does get old real fast.
That was like 40 seconds for getting better.
You gotta stop letting your mom shop for you.
You don't need to insult me every time someone
Dude, I'm a doctor, not a telemarketer. What is your job again? You plug in cords, right?
It's actually more important than it sounds.
Whether it's a face or a heel, this guy is just flat out unlikable. Someone can be cocky and charismatic as long as it's done subtly. Whereas this character's charm is about as subtle as a car wreck, especially the way he interacts with Danielle Pineda's Zia.
I'm not here to help you reset the food chain, so take your own damn samples.
What a nasty woman.
I will give Toby this, he makes ever so unlikable that you don't feel bad for him when Ripper lays waste to him. Isabella reminds me of the childhood innocence as seen in Ariana Richards and Joseph Mazzalo respectively from the original Jurassic Park, as someone who just has a love for life and dinosaurs and has several questions about her late mother, and by extension herself, when she learns she is in fact a clone. Goldblum's coffee break appearances at the beginning and end are brief, but it was so wonderful for him to return for the first time since The Lost World, and the man has not missed a step. Seeing him converse at the Senate like 1997 was yesterday. His mannerisms, cadence, and performance were all in character. This movie featured a lot of practical animatronics, probably for the first time since 2001's Jurassic Park 3. This adds a lot of credible authenticity from the cast performance as they're not having to use their imagination to a VFX creation that wouldn't be put in until post-production. Fact worth knowing, this movie provided continuity for the first time between CG and practical models as the animatronic model of Rexy was 3D printed from the CG model of her, so that there's symmetry in not really being able to tell the difference between one and another. One thing that some fans and critics criticized this movie for was the lack of blood and gore when Ripper bit off Wheatley's arm in the cage. Okay. If this was a rated R flick, heck, even an 18 rated movie, then okay, you would be valid in making that critique. But this is a PG-13 movie, so the movie would not have been able to retain that rating if they upped the gore factor. And besides, if you want a violent, bloody dinosaur movie, then check out Roger Corman's Carnosaur. That's of course, you're okay with human females being impregnated with dinosaur eggs. Oh, you think I'm kidding? So, I get the argument, but it just seems asinine to make that assessment when they want to market this movie to families who have 12-year youngs and above. Much like how John Williams upped the intensity with The Lost World, Michael Giacchino took the second Jurassic World score to a different level. The familiar theme of Jurassic Park is present at the end credits, but what really got me was how he made the movie have this haunted house theme, when the Indoraptor was stalking Macy, and this piece when Ripper is scrambling the rooftops really sells the gothic horror aspect of what J.A. Bayona was looking for. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the most gut-wrenching moments was the death of the original Brachiosaurus as she was pleading to be saved at the harbor, and the score really pulled on the heartstrings at the death of this gentle giant. There were some really touching moments in seeing camcorder footage of Owen with Blue as an infant and how he was bonding with her, and to the reuniting at the end where the Velociraptor allowed her pack leader to pet her.
Blue, come with me.
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom took home a worldwide profit of $1.3 billion against a budget of $170 million to $187 million. Put in 5 years of inflation and Fallen Kingdom's take-home profit would now be $1.5 billion. Variety's Owen Gleiberman called the film better than the first Jurassic World, but wrote, "Fallen Kingdom ends up being just a so-so ride. I hope the next one is an all-out ride, but that for the first time since Spielberg's 1993 original, it's actually a great one. The audience for this series has proved that it will turn out in megadroves." The Boston Globe's Ty Burr likened the film to a Universal Studios theme park ride, noting, "It's enough for a fun fright night at the movies but lacks anything else. Character, mystery, wonder, danger. The film's a rush for an audience that only wants the high." Peter Travers of Rolling Stone said, "This sequel has the perfunctory vibes that comes from filmmakers who cynically believe that the public will buy anything T-Rex related, no matter how shoddy the goods or warmed over the plot." Sam Mekovec of Ars Technica called the film a B-movie consisting of a 6th grade sketchbook mash of dino murder, cartoonish villains, and plot holes. The movie would be followed up with 2022's Jurassic World Dominion, concluding the Jurassic World trilogy. Well folks, depending on whom you speak to, the movie has been enjoyed since 2018 on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. I'm MJ Knight, and this was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Four years after the dinosaurs are unleashed upon the world, 2 generations of Jurassic come together in a bid to save the planet. Real Features covers Jurassic World Dominion in a first-time ever retrospective, closing out the franchise, only on Real Features.